force in all of us that science knows nothing about. It's fear.
Welcome, everyone, to Induced Fear. I'm your host, Oscar, and with me on this episode, I have Brian Paone with me, an author. You have stayed in the Missouri State Penitentiary,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you said you stayed for multiple weeks.
8
kept
weeks.
A diary.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And wrote down. And once I read that in the message when we were talking,
Right.
corresponding with each other, I was like, oh, you don't need to say anymore. You don't need to say anymore.
Oh man. Yeah.
I'm in it. I'm in it to listen. I'm in it to hear your story. But I always like to ask people, well, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it.
Always happy to chat with an author, especially somebody who has put themselves in like
Harm's
that
way.
space. Yeah. Really boots on the ground author. You didn't like lock yourself into like your own place and come up with all these things.
Right.
But what was your origin story as like in what drew you into wanting to become a writer and then also into this realm of kind of like horror and spooky and paranormal?
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Salem, Massachusetts. And I was born in Salem Hospital, and I lived in Salem all the way until I was 30. But not only was I born and raised in Salem, Massachusetts, but I also grew up in a funeral home. I lived in an apartment on the funeral home property, kind of a little bit detached from the funeral home proper, but my parents were caretakers of the funeral home, right? So we lived there so my parents could take care of the funeral home, which they worked at. My mother still works there. She's 76. God bless her. She still works at the funeral home.
Wow.
Well, I think when you're born in Salem, Massachusetts, right, and you live in Salem, Massachusetts, and then your formative years are spent living in a funeral home, it kind of just lends itself to being just loving the macabre, even if you don't believe. So here's the thing, and I've in my adult life I've thought about this a lot. That doesn't mean that you believe in spirits and ghosts and all this. But if you're from Salem, it just means that you have that kind of presence about you. You can have that presence and still not believe that the paranormal is real, but you can't not grow up in Salem and not kind of have this sense of ominousness, right? Because the whole city just is steeped in it. So I love telling people, people sometimes like when they find out that I'm from Salem, I get the gamut of things of like, well, that's my Mecca. That's my dream vacation. That's my bucket list. That's my Disney World. That's my this. I can't believe I was there once and I want to go, and oh my God, I would dream. And here I am. I lived there for 30 years, right? And I try to tell people that Salem is still Salem in June than it is in October. And I know people want to go in October for the Halloween. I get that that's the allure. I understand that. But Salem doesn't shut down the other 11 months of the year. If you go to Salem in May or April, all the tourist spots are still open. All the ghost tours are still open. You can still go into Lori Cabot, the High Priestess Witch's store in April. Salem is not a store. It's not a mall that only opens in October, So I really try to drive that point home to people. And I've had people, so I know I'm sure we'll get into the book that I wrote, at Missouri State Penitentiary, but the main character of that book is a real person, and her name is Hannah. And she lives in Iowa and she loves Salem, and she flew out to Salem last year, and I took her around. We did like a 5 day vacation, and she got more out of Salem going in April than she would have in October, because you're not fighting the lines. You're not, because Salem is still Salem. We're open. The tours are still there. The places are still there. The only thing you're going to get in October is way more crowded streets, idiots who don't know how to conduct themselves. You don't get anything more than maybe the sense that you're a bunch of other people like who are around you doing the same thing. But my soapbox is, if you really want to go to Salem, go off tourist hours, because it's still open. It's still a city, and that's kind of my thing with being born and raised in Salem. The Salem doesn't know that it's April, or October. You're not going to be fighting a million people and stuff like that. And my mom, my mom, who lives on First Street in Salem, is super happy to take anybody around as a tour guide. So, but yeah,
I would imagine there's an affinity like for it, well, especially when that's what you're surrounded by. You're surrounded by the stories that encompass the area, the vibe that it gives, and what the reason why so many people will go
flock there
in October.
It's not just that, but I don't think people understand, if you're not from Salem like me, if you're not, I guess people call us Salemites. People flock from all over the country to live in Salem, if they feel prosecuted in their towns. So a really close friend of mine, back in the 90s, him and his wife moved to Salem because they felt that Salem was a safe place because of the diversity, because of its history. They felt somewhat ostracized in the town that they lived in because they had a different way of thinking, because they had kind of an occult like mentality, and they literally packed up their crap. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on the show, so I'm going to say crap, and moved to Salem because we are very much acceptant of people who are a little bit off, a little bit deviant, a little bit weird, a little bit this, a little bit that, and you're welcomed. Like, that's us. That's who it really is a come one, come all, come as you are type city. So we get transplants from all over the country, who come to feel safe. Like, we're like a bubble of, hey, if you like, if you're the type of person that's being made fun of because, you believe in Ouija boards, come to Salem. You won't be made fun of there. Because we all do it. So it's an interesting place where we are, we welcome all kind of the riffraff. And I say that in a very lovingly way because I am the riffraff. But we welcome all the riffraff, to our house. So
you're like its own island of misfit toys.
That's a great way of putting it, and nobody gets turned away. Yeah, and you can go and you can thrive, and it doesn't matter your beliefs or your non-beliefs or you're this or you're that. Salem is still steeped in that. Like, we want you. We accept you. And that's the community I grew up in. So, we'll circumvent back to your original question. I think my writing and the person that I am today, in the way that I feel, is a direct lineage to the fact that I was born and raised in Salem. So you can't. It's really hard to grow up in Salem and have any prejudices towards anybody because you're the person, right? You're the thing that's being made fun of if we were to leave, So there's definitely a sense of my people, and we're safe here and we're good here, and that was amazing and definitely planted some of the seeds for me to be able to write and do some of the things I do. So, and Salem's a great...
Yeah, because nobody's going to shut you down.
Yeah, no one's going to shut you down in Salem. Yeah, because I think everybody realizes everybody's art is everybody's art. and we're there, and it's a safe but yet scary place, right? Which is a weird juxtaposition to say, but it is. It is a very safe place. Yeah.
So was it those like you said, it led you to kind of the person you are and the way that you write? Was it taking in all of those stories and kind of the folklore around the area? Because I would imagine people there talk about these things. You're constantly kind of
Sure.
sharing. You're all into the same things, kind of. So it's
Right. Right.
you're not afraid to talk about those, which makes you think about them more. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh well, I can do something of my own with this.
Right. Right. Yeah. So two things. That answer's twofold. One, we talked about Stephen King, and kind of like he's my favorite author, and he kind of created Castle Rock, which is a fictitious town where he had a lot of books and a lot of stories kind of like reflected back to it. So I created in my second novel. It's called Welcome to Parkview, and it was the birth of Parkview. And so I have 14 published novels. Novel number 2 was Welcome to Parkview, and then onward, every single book has something that ties itself into Parkview somehow. But I also, in almost every novel, have a character who is either from Salem, went to Salem. There might be a scene in Salem. So I do try to make Salem a part of my world, but I also tried to also give it as much attention to Parkview, which is a fictitious town. I've always said that if we had a map of Massachusetts, Parkview would exist just north of Salem and just east of Danvers, Massachusetts. And that's where like Danvers State Hospital, where the movie Session 9 is about. So Danvers has a lot of paranormal history. So I wanted to create a town that doesn't really exist, but if I was to put it anywhere, it would touch Salem and touch Danvers, because those are the two cities where there's so much like paranormal activity. So yeah.
Almost like it's drawing the paranormal energy from.
Exactly. So I don't. So all of my books aren't necessarily in Salem; they're in Parkview, but Parkview kind of draws upwards from Salem, and a lot of the characters kind of intertwine. So that's how I kind of circumvent, being like a Salem author all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. What was so? As you said, Stephen King being your favorite author.
Yes.
Was that another reason for you to write? Was it reading his books, like once you found Stephen King, or were you already writing before you discovered?
No, God no. So I was a Christopher Pike fan. If anybody remembers him, right? So Christopher Pike was like 80s young adult horror novels, right? And I was reading Christopher Pike, and I didn't really understand that at that time that you could be an author as an adult, because Christopher Pike's novels were all about teenagers and they seemed fun. My stepmother, for Christmas one year, bought me Stephen King's The Dark Half. That was one of my Christmas gifts from her. And it's my first Stephen King novel. And when I read that book, I realized that there was such thing as adult horror novels. And I walked away from I walked away from all that, everything before him. Stephen King at that moment was a line drawn in the sand with The Dark Half. And a lot of people don't talk about that book. A lot of people, when they bring up Stephen King, they don't talk about The Dark Half. But that's the book that when I finished it was my very first Stephen King book. When I finished it, I said, holy whatever, this is what I want to do. This was amazing. The plot twists and the intricacies and the character development, right? Because once again, I love Christopher Pike. Not gonna knock him, but his novels are like get in, get out quick. It's very goosebumpy. We're not like developing actual characters and world building. And so The Dark Half by Stephen King was what made me say, this is what I want to do. I want to be an author. I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a horror author because I'm not a horror author. I definitely follow the inspiration of Stephen King because he writes so much, right? You can be like Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me. You say those two titles, right? Are either of those horror? Like, they're not. Dolores Claiborne, I mean, is only horror because it's written by Stephen King, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's about domestic violence, you know? The Running Man. Let's talk about The Running Man. Let's talk about The Long Walk. You know, all speculative fiction, not necessarily horror. So I definitely wanted to do that. So I started writing stuff all over the place. I started writing urban crime thrillers. I started writing time travel. I started writing, you know, everything that. And if you read any of the Stephen King short story collections, like Skeleton Crew, Night Shift, Four Past Midnight, all that stuff, they are so wildly different genre, right? They go across the board. So I respect him so much for being able to do that. And that's what I wanted my career to be. I did not want to pigeonhole myself into some sort of genre. So I started writing, 7th grade. You know, I'm going to date myself. So I got a copy of The Dark Half under the Christmas tree in 7th grade, and I started writing. And I started writing these short stories, and I had a buddy of mine. His name is Jason Leck. And I haven't talked to him in 30 years. And one day I'm waiting for him to watch one of these podcasts and realize that I say his name almost in every single one. But what I would do is I would this was 7th grade. So if you can remember yourself in 7th grade, right? So I would go home on a Friday, and I would spend all weekend writing my next short story. And then I would bring it into school on Monday, and I would tell him what it was about. And Jason Leck was this awesome, at 7th grade, like illustrator. He would design me a front cover. I would use the school's photo copier and make 30 copies of my short story with his front cover, and I would pass it out to my schoolmates, like at recess. Like I would just like hand it out.
Yeah.
So I actually started like marketing myself at 7th grade to my own classmates. And it got to the point where like I had kids asking me like, hey, what are you writing this weekend? Like, you know, I was like building this weird fan base in my middle school, you know, because I was passing out free like stories, and then there's Jason Leck, like making all my front covers. I still have all of those.
That's awesome.
We are in 2026. I still have from 1988, 89, 91, 90, 91. I still have those exact printouts with Jason's actual hand-drawn things. I have them saved in the box in my closet. But that's how my writing career started, was just making them for my schoolmates and having this dude who loved to draw make front covers for me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, my mother says that I always wanted to be a writer. Like that's something she says as far back as she can remember me saying, like I just wanted to write. But I can pinpoint it at 7th grade where it was like, no, we're making front covers, you know, and I thought I was published, you know, because I had a front cover to all my stories, you know, and friends wanted to see it. So yeah, that's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome, actually. just because it kind of solidifies that fact of like, oh yeah, this is my path.
Mm-hmm.
This is my path. Especially, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go, oh, look at that kitty.
Yeah.
Oh, I love kitties. Yeah.
But yeah, it solidifies kind of your path, and also just creates that love for it more.
Yes.
Like you're like, wow, this feels right. This feels good.
Yep. Yeah. There's
to share your stories.
Well, like resonates, you know. You know, and I love to read. I've never lost that. Still, you know, I still consume books like they're water. But there is a feeling of like creating this universe that someone else might want to read about, you know?
Yep.
And a lot of times I've met a lot of authors who say like, well, I write for myself. You know, I write for me. I just, you know, I have stuff. I write because I have something to say, and I get that. But I write for other people. I write because I want someone to read my work and go, damn, that was cool. Or damn, that sucked. This guy's a piece of crap. Like, I just want some sort of emotion, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I do, when I write, like I said, I got 14 published novels now. When I write, it's definitely, I have the reader in mind, right? I have the reader in mind. If someone is to buy this book, I want them to be happy with it. I want them to be surprised. I want them to love this plot twist. I want them to hate this character. I want them to root for this to happen. There's a point where I realized, I'm not writing for me anymore. I'm writing for the people who are going to cheer or veer or whatever, my characters. And that is actually more enjoyable than just, writing for me,
Yeah.
So I think,
No, I can understand that. It's the same. You want to invoke the same feelings that you got when you read,
yeah,
like that Stephen King novel,
right,
like of like, whoa, what's going on?
right,
This
right.
twist, like, yeah. So I can understand that completely.
Yeah, so I enjoy that. I enjoy writing, knowing that people are going to read it, and it makes
Yep.
me super giddy sometimes, where I'm like, oh, they're going to love this part.
Yeah.
So- or
That's
they're going to
awesome.
hate this part.
Yeah. Well, what had led you? Because how did your writings first? You said how they first started off, but what led you to coming up with this idea of kind of staying within a haunted
Haunted
location?
places?
And
Sure. Yeah,
yeah.
that's $1 million question, right? So, yeah, so I 2024, I do have a 9 to 5 job. I not just not just an author. And my work had to send me to training in Missouri. Okay, so we talked about me being from Salem, Massachusetts, but I now live in DC. And my work had to send me to mandatory training in Missouri. 18 weeks. 18 weeks I had to go to Missouri. So we went, and you have to live there. And every weekend we tried to find new things to do just to keep ourselves sane, right? So my training was Monday through Friday, and then the weekends were free. So we did Bradford, we did Springfield, we did all the things you're supposed to do in Missouri, but then we kind of ran out of things to do. And one of my coworkers, or one of the guys I was in training with, says, hey, the Missouri State Penitentiary has overnight ghost hunts. You guys want to do this? And I was like, oh my God, yes. I've never done this before. I've never been on an overnight ghost hunt, but let's do this. So we booked an overnight ghost hunt, and we went there, got to Missouri State Penitentiary, and the ghost hunt went till 3 a.m. It started at like 7 p.m. and we went to 3 a.m. And all I remember is around 1 a.m., knowing there was only about 2 hours left, I remember going, I don't want this to end. I'm having so much fun, right? Like, I didn't really even have any paranormal experiences, to be honest with you. I was just having so much fun because they give you a bunch of equipment to use and you get to go, and like, I was just the amusement part of it. And I was like, oh my God, we have 2 hours left. I don't want this to end. And then 2 o'clock came and I was like, we only have an hour left. No. And then 3 o'clock came and they start closing down for the night. And I was like, no, I want to keep going. I'm not tired. Like, this is the most funnest thing I've ever done. Again, as an author, not thinking anything, right? So we went back to our training, and I immediately researched when the next time they were having another overnight ghost hunt. It happened to be the next weekend, but the caveat was that the next weekend, Nesper was there with all the Ed and Lorraine Warren's stuff. So if you know anything about them, right? So like, they're in charge of the Annabelle doll, and the Conjuring movies are made about them and all that. But they were going to be at Missouri State Penitentiary. So it was this like full-blown event. So they were incorporating the Warren Museum with an overnight ghost hunt at Missouri State Penitentiary. I didn't care. I was like, I want to go to this. This sounds amazing, right? So I went, and the format was completely different than the weekend before. The weekend before, the first weekend I went, Missouri State Penitentiary tour guides kind of showed you how to use the equipment, and then they kind of let you go. Like, oh, go have fun, for 7 hours. But this event was hosted by a company called Get Haunted. They're a excuse me, they're a paranormal investigative company, and Nesper was there. And what they did was they broke us up into groups where you went to different locations of Missouri State Penitentiary and you got to use their equipment. And their equipment is the real deal. It's the shit you see in movies. Like we were doing the Estes method in the gas chamber. We were doing EVP sessions in the insane asylum floor. It was crazy. At this point, I had already decided what my next novel was going to be. I was kind of outlining a dark fantasy neo-noir book, kind of like Dark City meets The Crow meets Silence of the Lambs. The night after this event, I called my editor and I was like, we're putting this on pause. I have an idea for a ghost hunt gone wrong at the Missouri State Penitentiary. So like that night, my brain was just like, right? So she's like, my editor was like, okay, like good to go. I was like, I have done 2 overnight ghost hunts now at the Missouri State Penitentiary, and I think there is something here. I think a ghost hunt gone wrong novel. I see this. I don't quite know the specifics, but let's do this. So I reached out to one of the tour guides and said, hey, I want to write a ghost hunt gone wrong horror novel about the Missouri State Penitentiary. Who do I need to talk to for legal ramifications so I don't get a cease and desist order or I get sued for using MSP. MSP is Missouri State Penitentiary. So if I'm going to use that now, it's easier for me to say. I just want to make sure that I wasn't going to get sued, right? So one of the tour guides was like, well, I'm going to hook you up with the woman who's in charge of the ghost tours. I was like, cool. So that woman, her name is Sheila. I sent her my thing. I was like, hey, I'm an author. You can vet me. Oprah Winfrey gave me a shout in her book club. I was nominated for a Hugo Award in 2015. You can vet that I'm a real deal. I want to write a book, and I want to take place in the Missouri State Penitentiary. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be sued. I don't want to cease and desist. What do I have to do? She was like, you're good to go. And then she goes, how would you like to spend 8 weeks and write the book here? And I was like, do what now? Yeah. She was like, I will give you full access to the property for 8 weeks to write the book here. She was looking at it as a marketing standpoint. Like, if this book comes out and is a hit and a smash, then more people might come to do the ghost tours because of my book, right? It doesn't cost her anything to let me stay there for 8 weeks, right? There's no overhead. And I agreed. And I spent 8 weeks in the Missouri State Penitentiary. And every word of my book is written alone at night in the dark within that property. And I will tell you, everything paranormal or unexplainable or weird that happened to me, I kept a diary. And my editor talked me into publishing that diary at the back of the book. So my novel, which is called These Walls Still Talk, is a fictional novel about a bunch of people going to an actual ghost tour at Missouri State Penitentiary and it going off the rails. But when you finish the book, then you get my... And so I finished, and then I was asked to be the guest of honor at a supernatural soiree in New Jersey. And Nesper was there. So Wade from Nesper, Wade is the guy who's in charge of the real Annabelle doll. He was there, and he asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to turn this into a series? And I was like, no, this is a one and done. I don't see myself doing anything more, because now I want to go back to that dark fantasy noir novel that I was supposed to have written before this one. And Wade says, well, I want to introduce you to Ernie and Denise Pack, who own Kentucky's most haunted inn. I was like, okay. And he brought me over to the table and he introduced me. And Ernie and Denise asked me, they're like, well, if you want to do a second book, so it's not a series, right? It's interconnected standalones. It's not a part 2. It does not connect, They said, we will give you a room for 3 weeks if you want to write a book about our place, which is, if you Google the Ditto House, it comes up as Kentucky's most haunted inn. They charge $500 a night to stay there because of the paranormal activity. They let me stay there for 3 weeks for free. So I wrote the second book in this series, which doesn't connect to itself, and they let me stay there, and that's what I just did. The book comes out next month, so this book isn't even out yet. And I went, and they gave me a room. They gave me one of the most active rooms that they have. Thank you. There was some nights where I actually fell asleep with the blankets over my head because I was so scared. They gave me what's called the murder room, which is the room where a traveling salesman back in 1903 was caught cheating at a card game and was killed in this room. And he's one of the most talked about seen apparitions in the house. And they gave me the room that he was killed in to sleep in for the 3 weeks that I was there. So these are the two books. Yeah, these are the two books that I have. The MSP book, where I stayed there for 8 weeks, and then I have the Ditto House book, which comes out next month, where I stayed there for 3 weeks. And Ernie and Denise, they have a room there. Their bedroom is there, and they would go to work in the morning and leave me alone in the house. And that, if you think to yourself, well, okay, Brian, you're alone in the house during the day. It's sunlight. It's no big deal. No. The Ditto House doesn't care if it's 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. There is apparitions. There is craziness that happens in that house. I have never seen activity like that before. And again, I kept a diary of everything that happened to me while I was there. And again, it's at the back of that book. So I do have to say that the book is coming out next month, and we are having a book release party at the Ditto House. And tickets are still available for that, where we are doing a 90-minute ghost tours through the house, a meet and greet, and then we're bringing you. And then the next night, if you sign up for the 2-night package, the next night we're bringing you out to Fort Duffield, where also a big part of the book takes place, where there is Bigfoot in the woods and a lot of Civil War soldier ghosts of spirits who roam. In that, we sold out. We originally were doing an overnight ghost investigation of the Ditto House. That sold out within days when we put that live. When we announced that, it sold out so fast. It was crazy. But what we have left is the ghost tour of the Ditto House, which Ernie and Denise, who are the owners, will take you through a 90-minute tour of the house. And you may or may not see apparitions and all craziness and meet and greets and stuff like that. So if anybody's interested in that's listening, see my name here, Brian Paone. If you add .com to the end of that, super easy, just myname.com. You can buy tickets to that next month right from my website. As soon as you go on, you will see a banner, like buy tickets to it. And so if anybody wants to come out to West Point, Kentucky, and come to the Ditto House and do a ghost tour with Ernie and Denise and a meet and greet, and then go to Fort Duffield and do some Bigfoot hunting and some Civil War ghost soldiers investigation, we still have a handful of tickets available for that. So,
yeah, anybody listening, how could you say no to that?
I know. So that's the thing. Like, so the first package was an overnight ghost investigation of the Ditto House, and that sold out like that. I mean, it was so fast. I couldn't believe it. Like, people were like, "Oh, hell no, we're not missing that," and they booked up like across the board. So, like, that's why all we have left, and it doesn't. I don't want to diminish it or make it sound it's less, because you are getting an honest to God ghost tour of the house, and then the Sasquatch and the Civil War ghost hunting at Fort Duffield. Those tickets are still available, but the overnight ghost hunt of Ditto House sold out. Like, I blinked and they were gone. I couldn't believe it. So that was fun.
I would imagine. I mean, that would be something. I mean, anybody listening who is into the paranormal would definitely be into that. And I think what I find really cool is the fact that you're writing your story on this. You're writing your novel on this location, but then while you're staying there, I love the fact that you're adding in at the end,
The
like on the
diary.
back end, your actual diary
Yeah,
of what actually happened to you while coming up
right.
with this book. I find that so cool, just because it's like, okay, you got to witness or kind of read through this kind of horror, and it's like, now here's the horror that I went through
Right.
while writing
Yeah.
this for
And,
you.
and that's what was cool. Like I wasn't going to do it, but my editor like talked me into it. She was like, "Why wouldn't you?" And my answer was, "Well, it's not part of the book." And she's like, "Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
part of the experience. And if you're gonna market this and sell it, the fact that you did," she's like, "You did this. Why wouldn't you put what happened to you at the end of the book?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay,
yeah.
that makes sense." Um, MSP.
Especially because not a lot of authors are doing it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like
they're
so
not.
you know how like actors don't break character when they're
Yeah,
not being filmed, they call it like method acting, right? So
yeah,
I've been told many times I'm doing method writing, right? Because I'm actually staying in these places. And the other thing that I've done with both the Ditto House and MSP and both of the books. So the MSP book is called These Walls Still Talk, and the Ditto House book is called Unpacking the Ditto House. But I'm going to say MSP and Ditto House just to shorten it. One thing that I did do was I did not. I made sure that the structures were perfect, meaning I didn't add a staircase where there isn't a staircase because I needed a character to run up a staircase. I didn't remove a building from MSP because the buildings there wouldn't work for me. I didn't add a cell over here because I needed a character to be in a cell. Like I took MSP and the Ditto House as is, and I wrote my books around the structure of all those properties. So
yeah,
if you buy These Walls Still Talk and you read it and you go to MSP for one of their ghost hunts, you can literally read my book and follow the characters where they went. The staircase is in the right place. The dungeon is where it should be. The gas chamber is exactly how many steps I say it should be. Ditto House is the same thing. If you want to run up the stairs with my characters, you're going to look left. You're going to look right. You're going to do. You know where the nursery is. You know where the murder room is. You're going to know where the ladies' room is. It is. I don't add rooms. I didn't subtract rooms. I didn't add a staircase. I didn't do anything to alter the structure of any of these locations when I wrote this book because I wanted it to be able to exist in a place outside of my novels where people could go and go, hey, this is cell 23. This is cell, you know, this is where Hannah got like chased by a shadow figure. And if I turn and run 3 cells down, I know that she went in here and it's going to work for you. Like you can follow my characters. I did not change the trajectory of anything. And all of the MSP tour guides are in the book. I actually use them as real characters. And one of the things that Reese, she's one of the tour guides there. I love Reese to death. She said that one of her favorite things about the novel was that if you have been to MSP, right? So think of the opposite. If you have been there and read my book, you can visualize the characters and what they're doing so well because you know where they are. Because I didn't fabricate anything. So she's like, I was reading this book and I knew exactly where Hannah was running. I knew exactly where, the creeper is one of the most famous ghosts of NSP. And Reese was like, I knew exactly where the creeper was running down the row of cells. She's like, because you didn't change anything. You didn't change the layout of the actual property. So she's like, that made it scarier because now I knew where he was. Like I understood. So,
yeah.
and I did the same. So both books, I did that with the Ditto House book and I did that with the MSP book. And that was, as an author, fun to kind of have a structure where I couldn't manipulate it. Like I wasn't allowed to change it, and I had to make the action take place within the confines of what already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as if like if you were a filmmaker filming on
Mhm.
location. Uh, it's like this is what
Exactly
you
right.
have to work
Yep.
with.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly right. Yep. I don't get to build a scaffold that it's not
yep,
there. Like I don't get to do that.
yeah.
It's if it's not there, it's not there. If it is, it is, and that's how I wrote the book. And
I think that's really
um,
smart too.
well, with These Walls Still Talk, the MSP book, it takes place over the course of one night, one ghost hunting night. That's supposed to be 7 hours long. I wrote the book, so it should take you 7 hours to read. Meaning, I wrote it with the idea that there's like a GoPro on Hannah's forehead, and so you are reading an actual linear time of everything that's happened to them during this ghost hunt. And it opens with them arriving at MSP to get in line to be checked in for their ghost hunt. And there is no break in the action. I don't cut scene. I don't say 3 hours later, where there's no 4 days later. Like we are just watching what's coming from her forehead for 7 hours. Um, Ditto House is a little bit different. The Ditto House book, Unpacking the Ditto House, it does have some time jumps. Because I didn't want to repeat what I had already done, and that was important to me. I didn't want to recycle the same story. I didn't want anybody to read These Walls Still Talk and then by Unpacking the Ditto House and be like, this guy just wrote the same book again, right? Like I wanted to. So Unpacking the Ditto House was very much inspired by the movie Insidious, where they're moving into a house and they're unpacking, and as they're unpacking, the house is kind of like, I don't know about you. I don't know if I like you, and we're gonna start making it difficult for you, and we're gonna send some demonic shit back and forth, right? So Unpacking the Dead House does span about 3 weeks of time, just like Insidious does. Um, and where These Walls Still Talk was very unique, where it is like a GoPro that never cuts off. So the two books, even though both books are paranormal horror novels where I stayed in the location to write, are vastly different from each other in tone, in plot line. And that was important to me because I told Ernie and Denise Pack, who own the Ditto House, I said, if I'm going to agree to another book, it cannot mirror the MSP book. I don't want to do, the same thing. I don't want to do Force Awakens feeling like A New Hope. I just, like I can't, I don't want to do that. Like there has to be a completely different vibe. And
Yeah.
they were really cool. They helped me kind of come up with a plot, and we did a roundtable discussion of, Ernie and Denise Pack, who are the owners of the Ditto House, were very, very hands on in the plot line, and I think they enjoyed being a part of it, and so yeah. So the juxtaposition between the two books is kind of cool, even though they were both written on location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see like kind of your path going this way of
No,
like
no,
staying?
no, I did not. I make a joke. I go, if you could time travel and tell, Brian 5 years ago that I'd be on Induced Fear talking about staying at the Missouri State Penitentiary for 8 weeks and the Ditto House for 3 weeks, I'd be like, you're smoking crack. You're crazy. Like, wow. And here we are, and we're talking about it. So no, I definitely feel that the universe just can throw stuff at us, and and it's our job to take it, or not take it. And when I did that ghost hunt with Nesper, and Get Haunted at Missouri State Penitentiary, and I came up with the idea of writing a book about it, if I hadn't acted on that, none of this would be happening. None of this. That book wouldn't exist. The Ditto House book wouldn't exist. You and I would not be talking, right? There's so many things that just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Something inside me said, no, you need to make some phone calls. You need, like, this, there's something here. Like, And this was before I knew I was even going to stay there, right? I was just calling to make sure I wasn't going to get sued. So I didn't
Yeah.
even know if that was going to happen. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to be like, civilly liable of using their penitentiary in my book, never expecting an invitation to stay there and write. Another thing that's kind of funny, really quick anecdote, is they did have ghost tours and ghost investigations happening while I was there writing, and they would invite me to talk to the crowd every night. And sometimes there was 3 different ghost tours a night, and they would kind of turn it over to me for like the last 90 seconds, and they'd be like, oh, and if you see this guy sitting in a cell with a laptop, don't be freaked out, don't be weirded out, we're going to let him tell you what you're doing. And I would kind of step up and I'd be like, hey, my name is Brian. I'm an author. I'm writing a story about a ghost hunt gone wrong here, Missouri State Penitentiary. Just they're letting me stay for 8 weeks. Blah blah blah. I was kind of giving them. But what happened is that Sheila, who's the prison boss, she's the tour guide boss, started getting phone calls from other wannabe authors who wanted to stay at Missouri State Penitentiary because they wanted to write a book. Because what they were seeing was me being able to stay there for free for 8 weeks and write this book. And they were like, fuck, I want to stay here.
Yeah.
8 weeks, right? So she actually came to me and was like, you need to stop doing your little introduction because I'm getting inundated by like wannabe authors. So we stopped doing that little speech. But what we did was the tour guides kind of worked it in where they said, hey, if you see a guy with a laptop, he's writing a book, go say hi and he'll tell you what's going on. So that's kind of how we but Sheila was getting like inundated with phone calls with other people who wanted to do what I was doing. And she was like, she told me, she says, Brian, you're the first person we've ever allowed to do this. And you're going to be the last. Like we won't let anybody else ever do what you're doing. Like stay here for 2 months to write this book. Like I can't, I don't want to do this with anybody else. And that staff has become like more than friends to me. They've become like family. They were there every night with me. They just, what an amazing crew. I can't speak better about the Missouri State Penitentiary tour guide crew. So anybody who is trust me, they do not pay me or ask me to say these things. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a ghost hunter or are interested at all, go to Missouri State Penitentiary, book a tour. It doesn't matter who you get. There isn't a tour guide that is better than another. They are all equally amazing. I spent 8 weeks with all of them. Honest to God, buy my book, read my book, These Walls Still Talk, then go to Missouri State Penitentiary, and then as you're getting the tour and you do the investigation, you can be like, holy crap, this is where this took place. But yeah, it is
you get the full experience and then some.
And then some, yeah. I will be there September 13th. I am flying in, and they are having me as a special guest for an event that they have that is called These Walls Still Talk. It's actually the same name as my book, where I will be the featured guest. So honest to God, if you are like, yeah, Missouri State Penitentiary is on my bucket list, but I don't know when I'm going to get there, go that weekend, the weekend of September 12th or 13th. I can't remember exactly what date it is. It's a Saturday. If you go on brianpaone.com and click on events, I already have it listed, but it's I think it's September 13th. I am the featured guest. They are doing an overnight ghost investigation, which is going to go all night long. But the cool part about this one is because I will be there, I'm also going to be taking people around and showing them where different parts of the novel took place and places where I wrote when I was writing the novel. So it's kind of a cool little thing. That sells out. This is the 3rd year we've done this. 2024, 2025. Yeah, so 2026. So this is the 3rd year we've done it. The last 2 years, this sold out because the Missouri State Department of Travel and Tourism, who own MSP, only allows a certain amount of humans on the property before it becomes a fire hazard, or I think it's an insurance thing. I think they're like, well, anything beyond this, like our insurance won't cover it if somebody gets hurt. So there is a limited number of tickets. The last 2 years in a row, the These Walls Still Talk event has sold out, like where they had to like cut sales. So I'm just throwing that out there. Tickets are still available, but it has sold out 2 years in a row, where we have gone and we do a huge thing where we do glow sticks at midnight, where we have everyone line the different catwalks of A Hall, and then at midnight we have everybody throw the glow sticks, and they all kind of come crashing down, and we do gas chamber Estes method stuff, and we do a whole thing with it. But I'm there, and I'm signing books, and I'm taking people around, but yeah, it sells out every year. So if any of your
So again, people,
if any of
why
your
not?
viewers are watching and MSP is on your bucket list, and you want something a little bit more special than their normal ghost hunts, the These Walls Still Talk event, September 12th to 13th, whatever that Saturday is, that is the one you want to do. And it will sell out because it always has. So it's a lot of fun.
Because you said you experienced paranormal things that happened, and you don't have to give those away if you don't want to,
Yeah.
because they're in the book for people to read. But in those experiences, because you said there was one, like when you did the ghost hunt prior, you were
Right.
like, nothing really paranormal happened,
Right.
and then while staying there, things happened.
Right.
Were you expecting the paranormal to actually happen? Like, were you a believer in the paranormal
I am.
prior?
So
Okay.
I'm a believer skeptic, right? So I'm
Yep.
somebody who's like, if I see it, experience it, hear it, taste it, feel it, then I know it's real. And I will absolutely believe that it is something paranormal. I also don't get caught up in the hive mind where somebody goes, oh, that broom moved. And everyone goes, oh, that broom moved. And then somebody goes, it must be a ghost. And everyone's like, it must be a ghost. Like I don't subscribe to that either, right? So I went into it as a very, very much like I believe that the broom moving could be paranormal, but let's not just say it is because we're looking for something paranormal, right? So
Yeah.
I absolutely will believe it is, but let's make sure that we know that it is. And that's why when I was there writing the book, in my diary, you'll see some very concrete things. I mean, we're talking about shadow figures just running across A Hall in front of me. There is no way, there's no trick of the light of that. I have cell doors slamming above my head when nobody was in the building. I was completely alone in the building, and there is the sound of a cell door sliding and slamming. There is a photo that is actually printed in the back of the book that somebody took while I was there writing inside of a cell. Nobody was in the cell, and there are hands coming through the cell holding like this. Nobody was in the cell when they took the picture. Nobody was in the cell. Zero. There is 20 people who attest nobody was in that cell. Why is there a figure of a woman like this in the cell when nobody was in the cell when she took the picture? And that's in the back of the book. Actually, I got permission from the lady who took the photo to publish it. But so I am a believer when you give me things to believe. I'm a skeptic when I can't seem to put my pulse on it, right? So that's kind of where I lie. And I had things happen to me there where I'm like, yep, that happened. I'm gonna tell you right now, unequivocally, that was a thing. Something absolutely, ran by me, and it's in my diary. So yep.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely when it comes down to those situations, you're like, where you can't explain it away.
Yep.
Because I'm the same way. I will tell myself, well, I don't know. The floor kind of creaks when we walk. Maybe it kind of shifted the floor and the
Right.
broom fell.
Just house settles,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
happen. And I found that what I did find being there for 8 weeks was that when people pay money to go to a ghost investigation, they want ghost things to happen. So any sort of creak or pop must be a ghost because they're hyper alert to that to the paranormal, because we're there to find the paranormal. If that same pop happened at 2 p.m. in a mall, would they be like ghost? Right? So I find that you have to kind of weed through the well, it's a ghost because I want it to be, or is it a ghost because it is a piece of energy that's doing something weird and I can't explain it, right? And it was fun. I guess it was fun to watch some people want it to be a ghost, and be like, you'll never believe what happened to me. What happened to you? Oh my God, what happened to you? I was in three. I was in housing unit three, and I turned around, and and the gate like popped. I think it was the ghosts, and I was like, no, and I was like, we are in July in Missouri. I am sure it was the moisture popping in the right. So you don't like they don't
Yeah.
they've paid money to be scared or to have some sort of validation. So, I find that was something I had to deal with when I was there, with some of the guests, and I had to
Well,
weed through
I
that.
would
So,
yeah, I would imagine that you being there 8 weeks is you're learning. It's kind of like a learning process within the first couple of days or the week. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, this pop happens every time the sun went down. Once
Right.
it starts
And
to
I
get a
did.
little
So there
cooler,
was a
this pop happened.
train. There was a train that went by, and the first 2 or 3 nights I was there, I honest to God thought that someone was rattling the cell doors. And then I was like, you know what? It was like the third night. I was like, this seems to happen at like 5:30 every night. And I went and talked to one of the employees, and they were like, no, that's the train, ACX or whatever whatever and I was like, oh, okay. So I like wrote that off. But if you had paid, money to go ghost hunt and you heard these cell doors shaking, you'd be like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
In their head, they're like, oh, it's the ghosts
right.
rattling
Because they want that.
the gate. Yeah.
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 Yes.
I completely get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is awesome, man. Like I said, you don't really see that when it comes down to somebody writing anything. They're not really putting themselves boots on the ground unless it's, somebody who is like a cryptozoologist or something like that, that
Right.
is like
Right.
out there
Right.
and taking notes. But for you to write your story and then also like say, hey, I stayed there,
Right.
and also here's all the things that I experienced
Right. Here's my
as
diary.
well.
There's other times I cried
Yeah.
and wanted my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
awesome. And the fact that you get to kind of make a connection with the people there, and then
Yep.
you, like you said, you do these kind of like events and you talk to people,
Yep.
and it just creates that whole vibe, much like back to the beginning when you were talking about the way Salem is like you're creating this space where everybody can just go to and this
Yep.
kind of enjoy the same thing.
Yep. Yep.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I really appreciate you coming on and
No, thanks
sharing
for
this.
having me. Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. If you want to let everybody know, again, I know you've said it a couple of times during the show,
Yeah.
where they can find you, any
Sure.
socials. I will also link all of that in the description below. But
Yeah, perfect. So, my books are available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook in every bookstore. So wherever you buy books, if you like Barnes and Nobles, if you like Amazon, if you like Books a Million, wherever, right? Audible, this and that. BrianPaone.com, right there. Beep, beep, .com, like it's my name, .com, super easy. If you buy any paperback off my website, I sign it, and I also date it so it is specific to you. So you're not just getting something that like I got a box of books one day and just signed all of them, and you're just getting a random book, right? Like I signed for you. So that's the best place to go if you want some signed paperbacks. And like we said earlier, the Ditto House Ghost Tour tickets are still available, and the Fort Duffield Sasquatch and Ghost Hunt is still available for my book release party. And you can get those tickets right from brianpaone.com. As soon as you go to this website, at the top is a banner up here. And my banner is click here for tickets to book release party. Boom, click that. It's easy. I've made it. You don't have to think. Like, you go to myname.com and boom, you can get all my books, tickets to the book release party. I don't know how many more times we will be out at the Ditto House and doing something like this. So if this is something that you are interested in as a paranormal fan and you want to come into the Ditto House and get a ghost tour, Ernie and Denise have talked about closing it down. They live there. They have talked about not allowing people in after like this year, which this might be one of the last times they will let the public come into their house to ghost tour their house. So, and the tickets are cheap. We're not talking like, we are talking like they're super cheap. Like, this is all, it's going to take you more money to get to West Point, Kentucky than it is the tickets to ghost touring these places. And there is a ton of hotels and Airbnbs in the area. We are only 15 minutes outside Louisville Airport. So if you're someone who's so far away that you need to fly, we are so close to a major airport. It will be easier for you, and I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. We are going to put on, it's going to be an amazing show. The Ditto House tour alone is going to be worth it. And the Ditto House never sleeps. It might just be a 90-minute ghost tour, but in those 90 minutes, you might turn a corner and see a full-blood apparition in front of you, because that's the way the Ditto House runs. It does not know time of day or sleep. So, yes.
Well, like I said, I'll throw that all in the description. I'll even throw the website over.
All right, cool.
During this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody watching and listening, please make sure you go and do that. Even if this is possibly the last chance you'll have, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Do it.
It's fun. That house is fun. And you'll meet me in person, and I'll take people around and show them places that I wrote and where things happen. And if you have any interest in Sasquatch, we're going Sasquatching with Squatch Man, Greg Yost, who's one of America's most premier Sasquatch hunters. And he's taken us out into the woods beyond the Ditto House, and we're going to go try to look for some Sasquatch. Even if you believe or not believe in Sasquatch, tell you right now, just doing it with that man is fun. You at least leave going, I had a good time. You know, like, yeah. Sasquatching with Greg.
An experience nonetheless.
And that is all you can. Yeah. It is all inclusive right from my website. Tickets are available, and they are cheap. We have made them super affordable. So, yep.
Hell yeah. To everybody watching, listening, whatever the hell you're doing out there, don't forget to ask questions and face your fears. Thanks for joining me and Brian on this episode of Induced Fear.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.